I'm getting a little piece of that action before I leave here.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Hacker Slash. If you're joining us again, welcome back. Don't be afraid. It's only friendly fire. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the party. We are a horror movie review podcast dedicated to telling you whether a movie is a hack,
A total joke, a waste of time,
or a slash.
Totally killer, pun intended.
We believe horror is for everyone, and as such, we're rating these movies with a perspective we've gained from our varying walks of life and the flavors of fear we fancy most. My name is Chris, I'm your friendly neighborhood slasher enthusiast, and this week I'm joined by the Superfly Space Guy, Mac.
I hope you got an eyeful.
And the classic horror connoisseur, Sean.
Is it all right if I touch it?
This week we're gearing up for the holiday by checking out a film that blends patriotic fervor with supernatural vengeance. This week's film emerged in the mid-90s when the horror genre was wrestling with its identity amidst a landscape of evolving American values. The story was told during a time of reflective American patriotism, the consideration of what it means to be patriotic, the questioning of values that should be upheld by the nation, and how current events shape the understanding of national pride. The film begins at the demise of a Desert Storm veteran and carries us through his undead cleanse of a hometown filled with those he deems unworthy of citizenship. The end result, though, is a film that pairs thematic depth and B-movie camp in a dance that challenges the viewer's sense of right, wrong, and allegiance. This week, we're talking about Uncle Sam. Who's seen this one before?
Definitely not me. I didn't even realize that this existed until I saw it in the list. Like not the title, it makes sense, right? But like the fact that somebody turned this into a movie, one, is absolutely not surprising, but two, caught me off guard. Absolutely.
Yeah, I gotta admit, this one is one that I feel like has eluded me for many, many years because, you know, here's the thing. When you grow up, you kind of go through this phase in your childhood or teenage years, this kind of phase of being like really into these super outrageous kind of campy horror films. And who am I kidding? It's probably, I'm still that kid deep down. And I know that this is in that realm, but it is a movie that I just have never gotten around to seeing in all these years.
Dude, I never knew this shit even existed. I looked up 4th of July horror movies, saw this on Google, and thought, where has this been? This movie came out when I was 6 years old. Why didn't I see this? Why didn't I know about this? Why haven't I heard about this? And honestly, I'm really glad that I didn't, because going into this, I carried the expectation of schlocky B-horror loaded to the brim with camp.
I can tell you, I was expecting Jack Frost, but on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a great fucking example, Mac.
100%. I knew that this was a Lustig film. It was written by Larry Cohen. I knew all of that. And if you know Lustig, if you know Cohen, given their track record, you have to be expecting this one to be over-the-top reactions matched by almost terrible acting with probably a bunch of really fun kills. You know, it's going to be one of those really, is it shitty B movie or is it shitty fun B movie? You know what I mean? That's what the track record is given here.
Okay, that's fascinating because I know neither of this gentleman. Maybe I know some of their work without realizing it, but I did look up Larry Cohen and I did not recognize a single movie on that list.
Maniac Cop?
I never watched it. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, I'm missing out.
Oh, man.
I know. We got some bullshit for later this year, I bet.
We definitely do.
Oh, no.
We definitely do.
Let me tell you how I was feeling, though. I want to circle back to the beginning of this episode with we believe horror is for everyone. As such, we rate movies with the perspective we've gained from our varying walks of life and the flavors of fear we fancy most. I want to set the stage for this. Because the idea of this podcast, our conversations are catalysts for enriching connections, and those connections are built on the way that our lived experiences shape how we receive films. And listen, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing Mac. I've read some comments in the chat. I read some comments when we did a watch party of this movie. But based on my own lived experiences, I felt a lot watching this movie. It dug up a lot of feelings for me. I was amused by the dialogue. Some of it's hilarious, but I was also disgusted, shocked, and intrigued.
That's interesting. There are like surprises along the way. That's for sure. There's things where they completely just pull stuff out of nowhere where you're like, I didn't know that you were going to go to that depth. But I think for the most part while watching, I just felt the budget. The entire time that comes down to the kills is a big one where you really feel the budget. And it's not a horrible thing. I'll say that. Don't waste money where you need to spend it elsewhere. But yeah, you felt the low budget. And sometimes that's a good thing. It adds to the schlockiness. Honestly, if you have too big of a budget, it's not even that fun anymore. It's like a rich kid trying to pretend that they're cool. But no, I mean, you're aware of it the entire time from start to finish, I think.
It's definitely true. The budget shows, but sometimes the budget just works and it makes it for a fun watch. And I think, yes, there is some things in here there's straight camp that are funny moments, funny lines, shitty dialogue, what have you. There are some things that this movie explores that, when you look a little deeper, are a little bit disturbing. For sure, there are some things there. But I think overall, what this movie is trying to be, I think this movie is really just trying to be a fun movie to watch. And I think, I don't know, it could be a hot take, but I just had a good time while watching this movie. I know it's not going to be for everybody. This is definitely, it has its own certain type of charm to it. It almost feels like it's laughing at itself, and it's very self-aware in that way. But I think it was just a silly and fun movie to watch. There's a lot of interesting things that this movie does. You can pull a lot of really interesting things that might trigger you in some ways, right? It explores some topics that are a lot more sensitive nowadays than I guess they probably were in 1996. But overall, what this movie is trying to do, I think it's just trying to have a fun time.
It's interesting because, yes, I see the silly. I see the doses of silly. When you say the words, it's laughing at itself, there are two moments that I can imagine where, oh, yeah, for sure. With the fucking writing in this movie, they're definitely laughing at themselves. However, one of the things that surprised me most about this story is how real it is how heavy it is. And it's the discussion of war, it's conscientious objection, it's idolizing alleged heroes, it's government corruption. And it's a really interesting, really fascinating exploration of patriotism as a concept. And that is something that I think growing up in the military, from being a very sheltered kid who had never left my family to then growing up in that environment and then getting separation from that. Now it's been 10 years since I've been out. It is a really fascinating thing to see explored in a fucking shitty 90s horror movie. It's wild to see. Yeah, I can see the fun for sure, but I think my own experiences have really shaped this to where, like, I took it seriously in some moments, not like in a bad way at all, but like in a, I'm impressed that this is happening right now kind of way.
I think it's ahead of its time in that regard, because it is something where on the surface, I think that's what surprised me most about the film, because it does have this interesting message kind of woven into it. It is on the surface this ridiculous movie about this overly patriotic killer, right? But you also have this deeper underlying message about toxic nationalism. And it is very interesting to see in 1996 that it seems like something that you would more so see in a movie made today versus a movie made in 96. But I do think it was surprising. It didn't make it a bad movie. I was also surprised to see that this film was dedicated to the great Lucio Fulci, the Italian director behind Zombie, which is why I'm wearing my Zombie shirt tonight, and Voices from Beyond and some other great films. But you love when a movie is dedicated to a great filmmaker, you know?
You do love it. I think you're both right. And that is the most kind of shocking part of this movie, because you go into it expecting pure camp and silliness and really surface level stuff. And it goes deeper. And I think it's able to hold kind of two voices in its head at once. I'm watching this thinking, is this kind of propaganda? Is it anti-propaganda? It's kind of presenting a lot of different arguments and smashing it all together for you. But I think when you go to the depths of the family dynamics here, it went so much deeper than I thought it would, and not purely for shock. I mean, there's things left unsaid in this film that the viewer gets that some of the characters don't quite process. So that part was really interesting for them to throw that dynamic in here, to have a character go from being, well, okay, they're evil, to, oh my gosh, they're pure evil. It really nailed that part.
That's the thing that I really enjoyed, though. And so many times when we watch these horror movies, we have a killer that we can either, I wouldn't say relate to, but that you root for in some fashion. And this one gave me a killer that I love to hate, but in a very different way than we love to hate Freddy, or we love to hate Ghostface or anything like that. This was just a very different tone altogether. I wouldn't say that there's really any fear in that, but what I would say is the themes that are explored in this movie, the things that you see in humanity that you find traces of in this killer, that's the shit that's disturbing.
Oh, 100%. The idea that this killer's personality exists in real humans right now.
In so many humans, I'm sure.
Yes, just how extreme his brain works. Yeah, I mean, the movie itself, not scary whatsoever. It's really not a scary film. But yeah, that idea that like you're watching this thinking like, ah, crap, we all know that people think like this, and that's bothersome.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think this is the type of horror movie that's trying to get you scared, right? In a traditional sense, I don't think you're putting this movie on to get scared. I think this is really the type of horror movie that you're probably going to put on when you're drinking with some friends, or it's on in the background during game night or something like that. It's really just meant to be something that you don't take too seriously, even though it has kind of a serious undertone or serious message to it. I also don't think it really wants you to live in that space and dwell on it for too long. I think it's just trying to be clever, maybe political, but also here's a shitty movie that we want you to like.
Which mad props to. I give it points for that. I give it points for being bold in several different directions.
It's very bold.
So at the surface level, we have a 4th of July themed horror movie. We get it. We've seen I Know What You Did Last Summer. We've seen other holiday horror movies. At first glance, this may seem like some dumb bullshit that you've already seen. But when I tell you that this movie opens up with a certain tone that already is different, and then it continues on in the layers that it peels back, it reveals there's so much more than just a masked killer walking around cutting up bodies. And that's where I think this is so original in a fascinating way that I'm having a really difficult time understanding how I've never seen this movie. Again, I'm glad that I hadn't up until this point. I think I'm receiving this very differently now as a 34-year-old veteran than I would have when I was younger. Holy shit. Like, I'm actually pleasantly surprised how different this feels.
I think it feels different. Yeah, probably because of some of the statements it tries to make and some of the angles that it does take, because overall, the formula and the things that you get throughout the movie are probably about as predictable as it gets with B-movie slashers. It's in and of itself, but it does have that patriotic angle that's not something we typically see. It's almost like they were like, we don't have a 4th of July horror movie. Well, let's give you a 4th of July horror movie and flip that shit upside down, throw it in your face, make it a complete 180 from what you think you might be seeing, right? And you find yourself rooting for something a little bit different than you would think going into a patriotic movie like this.
Think about the fact that we got Thanksgiving last year.
Yeah.
And that's a movie that takes the holiday, turns it on its head, and goes for really specific, really different angles.
It was fun, too.
Yeah, it's fun, but even that is fun in a different way. Slacks, dumb bullshit movie with a very heavy, very big message. There are a lot of movies that do dumb bullshit with heavy messaging, and it doesn't feel quite the same as this.
Yes, but that's what I got to throw out here, right? I don't think you're necessarily wrong. But the formula of this movie, the baseline is there to where my comparison to Jack Frost still lines up, to where I think there's a lot of movies where an undead thing or an inanimate thing comes to life and tries to get revenge or just simply goes on a killing spree. That formula, yeah, it's there. We've seen it in a bazillion other movies ranging from the 80s through the 90s, honestly, probably into the early 2000s. So I think, yeah, on a low level, we've seen it. But I think when it comes to the tones that it's able to kind of play with at the level it's at, like this is B movie straight to VHS 100%, but it's able to dive deeper. And that fact, I think, is where it gains originality points. The fact that like it rises beyond what it should be able to achieve.
I kind of wish I had this on VHS.
That's also, though, where I think it helps redeem its ending. At first glance, the ending is just, all right, that's okay, it's fine. It was giving some moment of like creep show for a second there. And it does one thing where I was actually surprised by a specific action that's taken and the success of that action. But it's the tone and the taste in your mouth that's left with the end of this movie where I think it earns a lot of my respect. because at a technical functional execution level, it's all right. I mean, it's about what you would expect. But again, it's like the ellipses. It's the subtext of what comes next and what's changed, what's different now.
I think this movie really goes out with a bang in a really hilarious and absurd way. I'm not mad at this ending at all. I think it was kind of fun. The end of the movie we're left with is a reference to the ending of Lucio Fulci's City of the Living Dead, 1980. Love that reference. I was kind of unsure about it as I was watching it, but then it was confirmed literally right before we get to the ending credits by dedicating the film to him. So I was like, oh, fuck yes. I love this movie even more now just for that moment.
Once again, yes, but because the very end of the movie, I feel like they dropped the ball. The execution, they said, can we aim for sleepaway camp and just kind of land anywhere? And that's where I think they succeeded. They landed somewhere, just anywhere. It didn't have to be good. The very, very end, I was not a fan of. The climax, I was okay with. And right up until the final moments of the movie, even the final scene wasn't bad. And then we get to the final moments and it fell apart for me.
Well, I am so anxious to see how the ending falling apart affects your overall rating. But before we start scoring this movie, Sean, how would you describe the gore score?
I think Uncle Sam from 1996, a B horror movie, low budget. I think it has some decent gore for what it's working with. It has some good moments. I think it plays with some really fun practical effects. I think it delivers some good campy gore. It's not over the top by any means. I wish they did a little bit more. It doesn't necessarily have to be Evil Dead level campy gore, but you can find a happy medium somewhere, right? You know what I mean? So either way, I think this one is giving probably a medium gore score because it's not taking itself too seriously to really elevate it any higher than that.
And what about the animal report?
We are clean in this one.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into our ratings. Uncle Sam from 1996. Was it a hack or a slash?
Oh, I'll kick it off. Here's the thing. This is not a great movie by any means. I don't want anyone to get it twisted any which way. This isn't winning any Oscars. It's not going to be in the top 100 horror movies of all time or anything like that. But truth be told, there are some plot holes. The acting is bad. The reactions, they are over the top. But I think that's the point. And the kills are really fun. This is a movie that isn't afraid to be what it wants to be. And I kind of like that. It is bold. I think we said that earlier. You can have this silly concept and story, but deliver a message that is somehow very real and relevant today. It's very interesting. I know I've dogged on movies arguably better than this movie, and maybe I'm just in this mood lately where I'm just vibing with shitty movies or B movies, especially in horror right now. And I don't know. I think if I had to think about it, I think the difference is that other movies are trying to be good, but they're just bad. And this movie isn't really trying to be anything other than what it needs to be. And maybe it is just trying to be bad. I don't know. I think it works. I think it feels fun. It makes for a tougher choice when rating the film because it isn't a movie you absolutely have to watch before you die. It's not a bucket list movie. So it definitely could be a hack, but it is also a movie that kept me watching. It's a movie that I was laughing with. I was laughing at it. It just doesn't really matter. I enjoyed the silly campiness of it all. I enjoyed the lore despite how absurd it is and how many questions are left unanswered. But I think overall, it deserves a patriotic slash.
Well, I'm going to jump in here after Sean because this is kind of tough for me to weigh out. Just like this movie, it goes back and forth a lot while you're watching it. And it's a movie full of caricatures. We don't get a lot of gore in this movie. We don't really see the kills as they happen, which is a bummer because I had hoped with something at this level, at a B movie level, you want to see them attempt it, right? But at the same time, you can feel the budget and you know it's low. So you know they don't even have the budget to show the kills happening on screen. So they made do with what they had to really achieve a film here. This is the craziest part here is that this is actually like a movie. It's not just 10 kills in a row and then they off the bad guy and we're done. There's a story. There's a story behind the story. The story itself, as we dive in and learn more about our characters, can keep you going when the antagonist doesn't, because sometimes the antagonist is fun. Other times it's like, whatever. I think I've seen that kill before. Can we move along? And then they reel you back in with the story a little bit just to keep things somewhat interesting. So it's tough. It's a bad movie. It's not a good movie, but you watch it and you get to the end and you're like, honestly, even though it's bad, it's not that it's great. You're like, But I'm okay. I'm okay with the fact that it's a bad movie because I liked aspects of it the entire time. And a lot of it I laughed at. And a lot of it you're supposed to laugh at. Sometimes you laugh at things they didn't want you to laugh at. And that's all right as well. Because all in all, as a package, I'm going to give it, a patriotic slash as well. But let's just say less enthusiastically.
All right. Well, this movie gives you a lot to chew on. And I want to be clear that there are moments in here that are wildly inappropriate, laughably bad, and actually gave me moments of genuine pause and discomfort. But there's this quote from Larry Cohen. I actually want to refer back to this. I want to read this for you now. He says, "Life has been good to me. I keep making pictures. Every year I make something. As long as I keep working, I have nothing to complain about." All right, so let's just pause right there and look. This is a guy doing what he loves.
Yeah.
Writing movies. He has nothing to complain about. He's living a good life. And then he says, "And the films I've made have all had some point to them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have felt they were worth doing. You have to have some direction in which you're headed and a destination which you have to arrive at by the end of the film so that you feel it was a satisfactory trip. Some kind of personal statement has to be made." It's that statement, that Larry Cohen quote, that makes this movie on so many levels inconsistent, but ultimately redeemed. His personal statement and what he says in this movie is what carries this movie. And I want to summarize it in this way. I struggle when people tell me or have these conversations about like, oh, the military must have been so great, or that's so cool, or, I'll be honest, like my mom constantly tells me, you should be really proud. Thank you for your service. I'm like, oh God, I struggle with that so much. It's like, do you really understand what you're saying? And this happens like even Veterans Day at work. I'd rather just like stay home and just avoid all of that. But this is the first horror movie that's made me feel like I'm not alone in that feeling. The conversations that we get from so many characters in this movie at so many different levels and in so many different contexts, it's a really fascinating package. And I honestly would love to see this script taken and remade with a little bit more polish, because I think it'd be really fun. But even as it is right now, it's still a slash. And with that, Uncle Sam from 1996 has earned a universal slash. You can find this movie streaming for free online. You can check the link in our show notes to see where you can find it right now. Check it out and then go join us in the second half so we can dive into this Star Spangled Banner together. We'll see you in a bit.
Introducing Uncle Sam's Fireworks, where our motto is lighten up your life with a bang and a boom. We've got everything from dainty sparklers that might just whisper sweet nothings into your ear to the kind of ground shakers that make you feel like you've just sent a cannonball through history. Looking to recreate the Battle of Yorktown or simply start your barbecue with a bang? Uncle Sam's has got you covered. You can find us right off the turnpike. We're that little tent that looks like it's inhabited by hobos or some kind of makeshift crack den. But inside, it's an explosive paradise. And let's just say, our products are so good, they're almost criminal. Remember Jerry? Oh, you don't? Well, let's just say he's a little short-handed these days. Thanks to our big bada boom pack. A word to the wise. Read the safety instructions, folks. So swing by Uncle Sam's Fireworks. We're the shady little setup that looks like a random vagrant's tent. But trust me, inside it's the 4th of July every day. And remember, if anyone asks where you got your fireworks, maybe just keep that little tidbit to yourself. Wink, wink.
Welcome back, folks. You are now entering the spoiler zone for Uncle Sam from 1996, which has, surprise, surprise, earned a universal slash. And we have a lot to unpack here, but before we get into the specifics of our ratings, let's go through those kills.
Hell yeah, this movie delivers a very healthy kill count in true slasher fashion with 15 kills in total, which is great. We love that. There are a ton of fun kills here, including some patriotic ones as well, and I personally cannot wait to hear which ones you all dug the most. So I gotta know which ones were your favorite kills.
Well, mine is kind of a combination. I love the linkage of two kills, and that is the congressman getting blown up, right? While the deputy goes up to try to rescue him, rolls down the hill, and then gets impaled by a flagpole. That whole sequence, those two kills back to back, if it was just one, it wouldn't have been as good. The fact that they happened together, that's what made it amazing.
It's so great because it's giving Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, you love it.
It was super good, man. Just this dude has just got fireworks going off all over him. He fucking blows up, catches on fire. This dude's getting impaled by a flagpole. Man, if that doesn't scream fucking 4th of July, I don't know what does.
Yeah, it's giving, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there, straight through that man's abdomen.
Right there.
Right there.
It's fucking phenomenal. Best looking kill of the whole movie, to be honest.
It was.
So many great kills to discuss here, but I want to highlight one that I take umbrage with, because Willie. We need to unpack Willie. Willie, who was getting a little excited about his own Willie, peeping through windows, the little fucking perv. Sam, his whole agenda, he goes after people who are seemingly unpatriotic, right? We know that Sam is abusive, potentially even sexually abusive to his wife, to his sister, etc. So what's his beef with Willie? And then he goes and just steals a shitty costume from him. Sam, your dress uniform looked so much better, bud.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing. This is where the movie kind of, the lore of it all doesn't always line up really well. You know that the movie is generally trying to say that this dude is coming back to seek revenge on people that are like anti-patriotic or what have you. But then it kind of eventually gets to this point where he's like, I'm kind of like going for whoever the fuck I want at this point. It becomes less about that and more about just straight killing.
Yeah, a couple of these kills were like based on his morality, and a couple of the other kills bothered me. I actually have a least favorite kill, and that's the barbecue girl.
No.
Least favorite because I just don't think she deserved it, and because I am someone who has burned myself on a barbecue. Not like I got a little 3rd-degree burn on my pinky. As a child, I burned both of my palms on a barbecue lid to the point where they thought my hands were going to have to be removed.
Holy shit.
You would never know. Look at him now. They healed up perfectly. But the fact that he slammed her face right into it, oh my goodness, that just insulted me. What did she do? She was just trying to lighten the mental load.
Bro, she stole a rib.
She stole a rib.
Well, that's the tax. If you're someone, this is the rule. If you're barbecuing, okay, it's your tax to assess.
That's true.
If you're barbecuing and you want to take a rib, that's your rib. All right. That's just how, as somebody who likes to barbecue, I just barbecued today. Actually, I made some burgers. I made some chicken.
Nice.
Made some squash. I made some sweet potato as well. But as I'm making that, if I wanted to eat one of those burgers, that's my right.
She is not backyard grilling. She is at an event. She's working the food services. I feel like she stole a rib.
She's got a job to do. Maybe that's what it is,
She's got a job to do. Wandering off in the woods.
Abandoned her post. Maybe that's what it is. She abandoned her fucking post to go smoke that joint. There it is.
She did not stand at her post until properly relieved.
Yeah, she did not know her general orders whatsoever.
That's what it is.
That's so sad, though.
But okay, so I could see your point of that. But here's the thing. One of my top favorite kills leads into that, and that's Jesse getting decapitated with the meat cleaver. Fantastic. And then you've got the head getting put on the grill for Barbecue Girl to open up and see charring on the fucking grill.
Flame broiled.
That's fantastic. Come on. That's great. Now, did she deserve to die? We can argue that all day long. But the fact that she opened the grill only to find her ribs substituted with a human head, that is fantastic. It's campy, it's gory, it's wonderful, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
Art the Clown would be proud.
Art the Clown would be proud. That is true.
He would have done the same shit. I want to highlight a death that I was actually so pleased by, but I'm devastated we didn't get to see on screen. And that's our final sergeant, the one who delivered the news that Sam had passed away. And he talked in the hotel room about how this guy was so disgusting. I must be batting 750 with the bereaved. What the fuck?
What the hell?
Yeah, this man is a predator.
I'm getting a little piece of that action before I leave here.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely ridiculous. But to highlight, like, you look at this guy, he's decorated, he's going to homes, he's delivering this terrible news to people, he's appearing to be allegedly supportive. And so you would have the picture painted that he's some kind of hero, but then no, because the people who wear these uniforms are regular ass people. And that's why I fucking adore what this movie does. It pulls the curtain back. Granted, not all of them are fucking predators like this asshole, but that is not uncommon.
Oh, 100%. It's very real in an area where, especially, in film and cinema, where they are, widely just made to be all heroes no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I definitely do appreciate that side that we get for sure.
Absolutely. Hold on a second. I also need to highlight our guy, Jody's teacher. This guy had a bad rap that whole movie. Imagine teaching your class, minding your own fucking business, and then a kid just interrupts to say, my uncle's dead. Here's an ammo can of his medals. You want to see him? And then you have to, accommodate a show and tell and then get questioned about why you fucking conscientiously objected to war? This poor guy. I think he handled it with grace.
He handled it very well. Kudos to him for sure. But yeah, absolutely. What about Rick, though? Man, Rick getting buried alive. Anytime you get buried alive, that's a fucked kill. It's not like the greatest thing to see, but it's one of the toughest things to imagine being in. You know what I mean? Your leg is broken. You can't get out. You're getting buried alive. I think what I thought was hilarious, though, was the fact that when we got to the point where the grave was completely filled in with dirt, there was a moment where you see like a finger popping up or something like that. And I'm like, out of nowhere, you were trying to barely reach to get to the lip of the top of the ground in there. And all of a sudden your whole hand can reach to the top and stick through a giant mound of dirt. Man, come on.
Yeah.
But either way.
It's weird. I loved, though, that he was sprayed in the face with spray paint.
Red, white, and blue.
I love that. The bamboozlement, it was honestly points for dramatic flair.
It was.
You can't just go around vandalizing stuff, especially with a killer Uncle Sam on the loose. I love that some of the kills do go with what he considers the crime, because if you have a morality-based killer, you got to link that up. You got to make it 7 at an accessible level.
We get another patriotic kill. Cleet getting hung from the flagpole. Man, hang him up half-mast. You know what I mean? Because this motherfucker went down.
Oh, wow.
I'm definitely getting salute your shorts.
Yeah. Oh, man. Salute your shorts. What a time.
Can we also talk, though, about Sam Harper's kill at the end of the movie? Not his initial death, not with the helicopter going down from friendly fire, but at the end of the movie, I want to talk about the moment that surprised me. Louise has a gun, and you think, oh, no fucking way she's going to make this shot. She makes the shot. She fires off. She hits center mass.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, girl. Do your thing. Go off, queen.
I literally made that same comment while she's firing at him. I was like, oh my God, center mass. She does a perfect ring. Her shot grouping is amazing.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely loved it. It was terrific. Also, though, his death was very Halloween too. It was very Michael getting blown up and then walking out through the fire.
It was, for sure. It was good. I think it was really hilarious. He's getting shot at the end there with the cannonballs, which I don't even think those cannonballs from that time would have actually exploded in that way. So it's even more hilarious that it turned into this massive explosion that ensued. But I guess that just adds to the charm of this otherwise ridiculous film, but very good.
Can we talk about how poor this movie looks? Just how... No, I don't mean poor as in badly, but it just looks broke. You can feel it. But somehow they just blew their entire load on making this zombie Sam.
They did.
Uncle Sam wears a freaking mask for most of the movie, but has better makeup hidden underneath. And it's perfect for the movie poster. We get a couple shots here and there, but it's crazy that they went through that length to make that prosthetic and you barely see it, but it looks great.
He's got to be tactical. That's his camo. He's got to blend in. You can't see me.
That's true.
Yeah, you can't have this zombie dude walking around willy-nilly, man. You got to blend into the 4th of July festivities.
That's right.
He knows what's up. Yeah, that's a regular Jason Voorhees over here, my friend.
Oh my gosh.
It's so true.
His Uncle Sam uniform did look better on him than it did on the stilts. And I was so pleased to see that it was a stilt guy, but he at least cut the pant legs properly. That's good stuff. Lucky for him being the same size in Zombie.
You know, I agree with you. I do. That is actually one of the things that I feel like I do enjoy the most out of the film is the makeup and the practical effects. And maybe to your point, Mac, that it's not the fact that It's just so incredible. And some parts actually look pretty good for 1996. There are some moments that look pretty good. But I think that the way they're done with the budget they had, obviously we're not going to be able to get all of these kills head on and be able to see every little bit of them in some of these slashers nowadays that we've been spoiled with, you know what I mean? But I think what they do give you is just good enough, just fun enough to you to really kind of like enjoy the film for what it's giving you. And I had a good time. It brought me back to a very specific time in my life when I was a kid and watching slashers like these and just looking for eating up any kind of out there, off the wall horror movies that you wouldn't normally see. No blockbuster shit like movie theater shit. This was the kind of movie that you want to see. It is like Maniac Cop. It is like all of those campy horror movies, early Evil Dead and things like that you and your friends just really have a good time with. It just brought me back to that time.
Yeah. You know, there wasn't much in this movie that offended me visually, except for the absolutely horrific, and by horrific I mean poor quality, burn marks on Barry.
Oh my. Oh.
If you recall, one of the last Halloween movies that we did, Dr. Loomis has a burn that looks like an egg yolk, and it changes places on his face throughout. This was like that level of bad. Ooh, it was so awful. However, aside from that, honestly, Sam looked great. What I did not like, though, was the sound. Did either of you have issues with the sound kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down?
Yeah.
It was like almost choppy a little bit.
There was some choppiness to it for sure. I don't know if that's in every version we get or just in the streaming service that we may have used, but I get it. Yeah, it was a little bit interesting. I think what's kind of cool, though, that I read about this film is that this movie has a very rare movie poster in circulation, one that I dare say would probably tantalize anybody that's looking to probably collect some of these rare kind of movie posters, especially in horror, because they made this really cool lenticular movie poster in 3D showing versions of Uncle Sam changing from like an old man to some sort of like ghoulish monster. And it was pretty cool from what I can see. Obviously, I haven't seen it in person, but I was looking it up and I can see like the different versions at different angles. So that's kind of cool. But only 10 were ever really issued.
Oh.
So that's a really low number. I tried to do like a search on it, like if you can even find one for sale. And in the couple minutes that I looked it up, could not find one for sale. So I'm assuming that it's really hard to find, but I also didn't really try very hard to find it.
All right. Sounds like we got to put in 10 minutes of effort and see what happens.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, though, where they put in some actual effort on this movie, and that was in my absolute favorite scene. And this might surprise you because it's nothing that's super gory. It's nothing super brutal. It's nothing violent. But it absolutely is Jed's lecture about being a hero to Jody on the front porch. This is the scene that defined the movie. This is the scene of a little brat who has not been disillusioned yet. He's still under this level of enchantment. Also, I fucking hate Jody, but we'll get there. He's under this impression that his uncle is a hero. And so he has this idea of what it means to be a patriot, what it means to be American, and he knows better. He knows so much better that he will look Jed straight in the eye and doubt him. Jed, who lost a leg in war. Jed, who talks about the reality of how things are and what you do want to do and what you don't want to do, and how, you know, people at one point knew what they were doing. And granted, politics complicates things. Agendas complicate things. I absolutely loved this conversation because it also reminded me of so many different conversations that I've had with people who keep saying, oh, I think I'm going to go in. I think I'm going to go in. I can go do the military. Listen, you can do the military, but you have to also understand what it is that you're getting into. And you have to understand what it is, and you have to understand what it isn't. If you have this illusion that everybody in there is heroic and not a scumbag, then sorry, buddy. Reset your expectations and just understand that you are getting more of the same that you're surrounded by now, just with different responsibilities and different geographic requirements. Extra added layers of risk and danger to your job. That's it.
Absolutely. My favorite scene, I think, in this movie, aside from the kills, because if we go through the kills, those are arguably some of the better scenes in the film. But I also thought, for what it's worth, the peeping Uncle Sam scene on the stilts was kind of funny. It was maybe not the fact that he's peeping, but I think it was funny that he's up there on stilts trying to look through the window, and he's looking at the girl coming out of the shower. You get this whole thing where he's like falling back, and that whole, I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of B-movie horror, right? But also maybe 70s, 80s slasher type shit, but also kind of Animal House in the same vein of like Animal House or Revenge of the Nerds or some kind of movie like that. And it was just kind of a fun scene to have in the middle of the movie that just kind of worked for it. And I think it was just fun enough. It didn't really do anything. I think what's kind of interesting is the girl that does that scene agreed to do her brief nude scene only if she could get one of the Uncle Sam masks after filming was done. That's all. That's what it took. She was like, I'll do it for the mask.
That was her price?
I'll show some nip for the mask. And that's what it was. And that's cool.
Wow. I wonder what she did with it. How long did that last?
I know. I don't know. Did she sell it? Did she have it? I don't know.
Was it worth it? That's what I want to know about that.
After all these years, looking back on it, was it worth it?
I'm going to go in the same vein as Chris on my favorite scene here. My favorite scene was related to the characters and to the actual story. That was our little young one learning that this is what was implied to me, was that his uncle was probably his dad. That's what I took away here, is that he was a child of, because it's mentioned early in the film that his mom won't tell him anything about his father.
Oh my gosh, that's heavy.
And now it's mentioned that from when she was a child that Sam was abusing her. So it's, I don't know. That's what I took away. That's probably a little bit deeper than maybe they meant to go. But to me, it seemed very obvious. But aside from that, he just learned that, and we learned that Sam was a really bad dude. And not just like he got a little drunk every now and then and yelled and deserved to be divorced. No, he was a total piece of crap. And there's no point in rooting for him. You shouldn't. You should really want him to be taken out. And it was nice because I think a lot of movies dress up these killers to be either empathetic or just to be so silly and zany that like, you're like, yeah, do another one, kill somebody else. And I think at this point, you're just like, I really don't like this guy and he should not be walking around anymore. And I can't wait for them to take him out.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that scene as well, Mac. And it's one of those where you really struggle. I didn't pick up on Sam being his father because I could have sworn that there was a father in the picture who's just no longer in the picture.
I could see it though.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's an interesting thing to go back on and watch the movie back and have that subtext in your brain. But looking in on this moment, you have a child who is idolizing his uncle so much that he is at odds with the women in his life who are actually present with him and care for him every day. The ones who are actually genuinely raising him. And yet, Uncle Sam has had his hooks in this kid. It also has this fascinating layer on how the military-industrial complex and how it has its hooks in on kids and promises a better future and promises this allure and this glory of things. And you grow up and you're basically groomed for military service. And you really know what you're doing and what you're getting into. So there's that component of it. But then B, this is such a defining moment for Jody because you get to see, will he believe the women who have raised him? Is he going to actually understand what's happening here?
Yeah.
This movie could have done a lot of things. It could have handled that one moment very badly, but they didn't. And I love that. I love that we got to see his processing of that and for him to understand what like empathy looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely this whole toxic nationalism message for sure. You know what I mean? Like it definitely really goes out of its way to really highlight the fact that we are transitioning from this era of like war that to a lot of people felt like there was a lot of meaning for it. Like we had something we were standing up for, to transitioning into wars that we feel like we shouldn't even be in kind of thing. And it's just that whole, I'm an American and I got to save the fucking world. And whether they like it or not, we're going to bring democracy to the land. You know what I mean? And I think it definitely goes down that path. I also think it has a very similar parallel to this message that American History X was giving you, right? Like you're just like following in someone's like ideology, someone that you look up to and things like that, right? Kind of a slightly different turn of events for sure, but also kind of similar in the behaviors and the actions that are unfolding in these two movies.
Yeah, it's like that famous phrase, don't meet your heroes. Sometimes your heroes are just shitty people. And that's the reality.
Sometimes your heroes are just assholes.
Completely. But man, even diving more into that scene, you have that moment where Louise admits that Sam was a very particular way, and that's what attracted her to him. It's like, oh, girl, you love toxicity. You love toxic men. You love toxic boys. But then we have Jodi's mom's admission that she could have warned Louise about what she was getting into, about what kind of person he was. To have this really vulnerable take between these women, this was such a fucking phenomenal moment. As uncomfortable as it is and how out of place it is in this movie, I was really pleased to see that even a movie written by a man can have this kind of gravity.
It is surprising. And I think the fact that they were able to give some of these characters more depth than the movie really required was impressive. There's some characters you've already mentioned, one of them that you just don't enjoy. And you wouldn't be bothered if they were to get got. And there's some other ones here, like I felt this way about the barbecue girl, that you want to see protected, that you think are decent humans and should survive all the way to the end. And for a movie like this to make me care even a little bit about any of them was impressive.
Very true. Very true. I just want to know how this Uncle Sam dude was even, I want to know, like, he was brought back to life because some kids were burning the flag and the embers fell into his grave, but he wasn't even in the grave, but he got resurrected because of that. Is that what they were trying to hint at? How's this motherfucker coming back to life? That's what I want to know.
He smelled something real un-American.
Yeah, I smelled
injustice.
I smell these anti-patriotic fucks. I'm coming back. This guy right here. Man, he's not even in the grave. That's the thing that killed me, man. He's sitting in a coffin in somebody's living room. These kids are dancing around the graveyard. All of a sudden, this guy's coming back.
He felt that shit in the force. He felt that shit in the force. He sensed a disturbance.
Oh my god. Hey, we got PJ Souls in the movie though.
Fucking wild.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And she's wearing a red cap like she does in Carrie.
It's cute. I love it.
You gotta love those little Easter eggs. Those are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the casting on this one was actually very surprising. To see like Isaac Hayes in this was just, what is that? What was going on back then?
Man, people were just coming together, you know? Let's make this movie.
And I like that they had him play somebody that you actually enjoyed listening to and enjoyed being on screen. That was one of the best parts. It's like, oh, that guy's not a total douche. Thank you for giving Isaac Hayes a great, I wouldn't say great role, but a good role.
Yeah, for sure. What about Barry? He was supposed to be blind because it very well looked like he took the food out of his mom's hands pretty easily. Like he knew it was fucking right there.
Listen, okay, first off, the audacity of Barry's parents to take a child who was injured by fireworks to a major fireworks demonstration just 1 year later. That boy is translucent. That boy hasn't seen the light of day. And then, what the fuck is this moment with Sam caressing Barry? He didn't need to touch him that way.
Right?
And he described it in a perfect way where he touched me.
Yeah, he did.
You know?
This is the moment. I was like, oh, geez, this is wildly inappropriate. It's terrible. I don't like the caressing here. But
what was with that, man?
It was so weird. It was so weird.
Awkward. So awkward to watch.
They really treated Barry very poorly in many scenes in this movie. His parents just literally left him so they could go do something else over the other way. And then they were like, what, man? What are you talking about? I don't know. We just left our kid hanging out. Our kid who literally can't see.
This is exactly why Barry got fucked up in the first place. Bad parenting.
But you know what? Barry got his ass left outside anyway in the fucking second half of the third act.
Yep.
Because this kid was still chilling parked on the sidewalk. Parked on the fucking sidewalk.
They legit were like, it's too much work. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
And then he was giving commands.
Right.
Jed was listening to this kid.
Oh.
Jed, what are you doing, bro?
I don't know what's happening here. This fucking wannabe Professor X motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, dude. No way. Not calling the shots.
They had their man in a chair, you know? He just didn't have screens in front of him.
Can we highlight, though, how stellar the dialogue was? And for as much as I could not stand Jody 99% of this fucking movie, one of his best lines, I'm not going to watch TV. I'm in mourning.
Yeah, that was good.
Or from his mother, not now, Ralph. There's a dead body in the house.
Classic.
Again,
Classic.
I don't deliver them quite as funny as, and when I say quite, I mean, I fail to deliver this to the level of humor with which these actors delivered it. But those were two moments that just made me absolutely erupt in laughter watching this movie.
Those were the moments where you could really feel the camp. It wasn't even like the effects or anything like that. It was like somebody's here with a sense of humor and they're letting it shine just a little bit. It's just peeking through. And I think this movie had like several of those moments where we're just kind of like, I'm actually lolling, not just writing it.
You know, the more I sit here and think, though, the more I think that the caressing of Barry is absolutely the worst part of this movie.
I like the idea that that's the worst part of the movie because to me it was missing out on the kills. And I think I expected to see really poorly executed kills and I didn't get them. I was hoping that would add to the feeling, right? It would add to like how schlocky, how cheesy, how campy it all felt. And everything was pretty much off screen or was a cutaway. And that was a little bit of a letdown for me.
Oh, for sure it was. And again, I go back to even we have the sergeant who we find to be sitting and chilling in Sam's casket. It's absolutely wild to me that we didn't get to see that death.
All right, I think the worst part for me, for sure, was actually those weird random flashbacks that felt super strangely placed in the film. And it was especially that first one that we got because it was like super sudden. It was like one of those loud like noise spikes, those audio spikes, and it felt like super unnecessary. I don't understand the placement of that flashback. It doesn't feel like it was well timed for us to be like ready to maybe get something else that was just and it was so fast that it just felt really strange. I don't think it added any value. I don't think it needed to be there at all. I don't even know why it was there. It may have very well been a fucking mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like they had several flashes that weren't even flashbacks throughout the film, like flashes to a kill in progress, but it was like for 0.5 seconds.
Right.
And that was way too fast because if you're going to do a flashback, one, you need to like, I don't know, do that little vignette around it or something and give us a full 30 seconds. But this wasn't even that. That's just like, hey, cut to that for as little time as possible and then go right back to the thing we were watching. And then in 3 seconds, do it again.
Yeah.
And it just keep progressing half a second at a time. And it was just like a flash punch to the face.
Yeah. I mean, it's either that or the fact that this poor town must have school year fucking round because it's supposed to be around the 4th of July and these motherfuckers are still in school, man.
Bro, that is such a great point. I hadn't even considered. And it looked too full to be summer school.
That's what I'm saying. Come on.
Yo, respect to this teacher getting murdered by a zombie, even though he was working and didn't even get a break. I think he deserved a pass to the end of the movie just for dealing with Jody's wild ass.
Yeah.
I would not want that kid in my classroom.
For sure.
That kid would get on like a watch list. The second I interacted with him, I am talking to somebody.
Yeah, no, 100%. Super sus. You're bringing an ammo can to school? Come on, kid.
Expelled. But I don't know. This movie we've talked about, it goes back and forth and up and down and there's bad parts and then there's good parts. And I don't know that I could watch it again. I think if it were on and I was in the room and I was watching it, I'd be fine. But I don't know that I could seek it out to watch it again on purpose.
Yeah, I think that's where I struggle as well. I don't think I'll watch this again anytime soon just because of how heavy it is. I'm so happy I watched it. There's a lot to chew on here, but I think I would need to be in a very particular state of mind to revisit the themes that are in this. Maybe after I do a little bit of my own therapy, but what I will absolutely do is watch Maniac Cop and more of Larry Cohen's work.
Yes, for sure. You know, I said it earlier. I think this is definitely one that I can put on, you know, at any time really, but more so kind of a background movie. If I'm just having fun, we want to put something campy on that we're drinking to that we can laugh at, that kind of thing. But it also does have that heavier message to where it's like, do I really want to take this in right now kind of thing? And I think that's the thing is, it kind of has to be in a headspace where you're just able to have fun with it and not really looking at what it's all trying to give you as far as the message goes. But it does have this kind of feel to it like we get from Maniac Cop, like we get from The Toxic Avenger. And I feel like for that, it's definitely something that I feel like I'm going to revisit again. I think there's some rewatch value there. I think there's some Easter eggs. When and how will I watch it? I'm not sure, but this is the first time I've seen it, and it's been out for how many years? Holy shit, I definitely have to rewatch it at least one more time.
Well, we'll see how much rewatch value you get out of it and what our listeners get as well. But for now, there you have it, folks. Uncle Sam from 1996 has earned a shocking universal slash. Now, we've certainly had a robust discussion here, but the conversation doesn't end here by any means.
We want to know what you think. Is this campy B-movie horror slasher your jam? Let us know. You can join in on the conversation by hanging out with us for free in our Discord. Click the link in our show notes to sign up.
If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, consider becoming one of our patrons. Visit patreon.com/hacker/ to enjoy more of the show with early access, extended episodes, bonus content, and live shows.
We'll see you next time, folks, and remember, you'll get over this in time.
This is going to be a 4th of July we'll never forget.